What happens when a wildlife conservationist walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a cheerful chat about animals, and instead gets ambushed so hard the set basically turns into a battlefield? Robert Irwin, son of the legendary Steve Irwin, showed up on The View thinking he'd talk about his latest conservation project. But Joy Behar had very different plans. What began as a simple question about crocodiles spiraled into one of the most explosive moments in the show's history, ending with security escorting someone off the set. Before we unpack the chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on, because, trust me, after this clash, you're absolutely going to have opinions. So, Robert walks onto The View with that signature Irwin enthusiasm, bright-eyed, eager, excited to talk wildlife. The audience claps. He waves. He sits. Everything is exactly the warm, friendly segment he expected. Whoopi Goldberg kicks things off, asking about his recent trip to Northern Australia, and Robert lights up. He talks about saltwater crocodile research, describes a massive 20-foot croc they tagged, and the passion is unmistakable, pure Irwin energy. The audience eats it up. Then Joy Behar jumps in. Robert's, "That's all very interesting. But do you ever think maybe we're spending too much time worrying about crocodiles when there are people suffering?" Immediately, the air shifts. Robert's smile doesn't fully vanish, but something changes behind the eyes. He takes a breath. "Well, Joy, conservation isn't about choosing between people and animals. It's about recognizing that healthy ecosystems support human life. When we protect habitats, we're protecting resources communities depend on." Joy leans back, unsatisfied. "But practically speaking, Robert, there are homeless veterans. There are kids going hungry. And we're tagging crocodiles. Help me understand how that makes sense." The other hosts shift uneasily. Sunny Hostin looks uncomfortable. Sarah N. glances around like she's watching a train about to derail. Whoopi stays neutral, never a good sign. Robert leans forward, respectful, firm, with respect, Joy. "That's a false dichotomy. My family's organization employs hundreds, supports local economies, funds education. Conservation isn't frivolous. It's essential. And this idea that caring about wildlife means you don't care about people? That thinking is exactly why we're facing an environmental crisis." The audience lets out that collective oath, the sharp inhale, when someone goes bold on live TV. Joy's eyebrows rise. Not in agreement. In challenge. "Environmental crisis," she repeats. "Robert, you're very young. And I don't mean that as an insult. But some of us have been hearing these warnings for decades. Acid rain. The ozone disappearing. Florida underwater by now. At what point do we admit some of this is exaggerated?" Robert's jaw tightens. The fire builds. "Joy, the ozone layer recovered because we took action. We banned the chemicals destroying it. That's not exaggeration. That's proof policy works. And sea level rise is happening. Communities are being displaced. Miami floods during high tide." Joy cuts him off. "Miami's always flooded, Robert. I've been going for 40 years. With respect, that's simply not accurate." Robert fires back, voice louder now. "The frequency of tidal flooding has increased dramatically. This isn't opinion. It's data." Whoopi tries to step in. "Okay, let's maybe bring it back to..." But Joy isn't letting go. "I'm just saying your generation has been told the sky is falling your whole lives. It makes me sad that young people walk around terrified about climate instead of enjoying their youth." That's the moment Robert's composure fractures. Terrified Joy. We're not terrified. We're informed. And honestly, attitudes like yours, this dismissiveness, this refusal to acknowledge scientific consensus, make the problem worse. My generation is inheriting a damaged planet, And now we're being patronized for trying to fix it. The studio goes silent. The kind of silence that vibrates. Sarah N. jumps in, desperate to change the subject. Robert, tell us about the new exhibit at Australia Zoo. ... Whoopi starts, but Joy slices through the air before she can finish. He clearly has thoughts about my attitude. Robert turns fully toward Joy. His voice is steady, but there's an unmistakable edge. I'm not attacking you personally, Joy. I'm criticizing a mindset. The mindset that says we can't care about multiple issues at once. The mindset that treats environmental science like it's optional. The mindset that dismisses the concerns of the young people who are actually going to inherit the world we're shaping right now. Joy's face flushes anger, embarrassment. Maybe both. I've been on television for 30 years, Robert. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, Nobel Prize winners. I don't need a lecture from someone who grew up on a television show. And there it is. The gloves hit the floor. Robert's face goes pale then red. His fingers clamp onto the armrests like he's holding himself back. That is incredibly disrespectful. Joy. My father dedicated his life to conservation and education. He died doing what he loved. And yes, our work was televised, but that doesn't make it any less legitimate. Would you say the same thing to Jane Goodall? To David Attenborough? Joy waves her hand dismissively. They're scientists, Robert. You're a celebrity. I have a degree in conservation biology. Robert fires back, voice trembling not with fear, but with pent-up frustration. I publish research. I work directly on endangered species recovery programs. What exactly makes my credentials less valid? Whoopi tries again. All right, I think we need to take a breath here. But Joy barrels forward. Your credentials are fine, Robert. I'm sure you're very smart. What bothers me is this self-righteousness, this moral superiority your generation has. You come on shows like this and lecture everyone about how terrible we've been, how we ruined everything. And frankly, it's exhausting. Robert lets out a sharp laugh, one of those disbelieving, are you serious laughs. Self-reaches. Joy, you've built a career on strong opinions and telling people when they're wrong. How is me defending conservation science any different from what you do every single day on this show? The audience reacts, a mix of gasps and scattered applause. Sunny Hostin's eyes widen. Sarah N. sinks into her chair. Alyssa Farah Griffin watches like she's witnessing a car crash she can't stop. Joy points a finger at him. The difference is, I've earned the right to have strong opinions. I've lived through wars, recessions, social movements. You've lived through what? Instagram. I've lived through the 6th mass extinction. Robert shoots back instantly. I've watched species disappear. I've seen coral reefs die with my own eyes. I've held animals that were the last of their kind. Forgive me if I think that gives me the right to speak on conservation. Joy shakes her head. See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is a crisis to you. Everything is the end of the world. You know what we called people like you when I was younger? Alarmists. And you know what we call people like you? Robert snaps, voice raised now, anger fully visible. Deniers, obstacles. Part of the problem, the audience erupts cheers. Boos, shock, Whoopi stands up. Okay. We need to stop right now, she says firmly. But the two of them are locked in. Joy pushes herself up from her chair. I am not a denier, Robert. I believe in climate change. What I don't believe is being told I should feel guilty for living my life, traveling, enjoying things by someone who has made millions off animals. Made millions. Robert stands too. Producers off-camera move toward the stage. Every dollar we make goes back into conservation. My family lives modestly. We don't own private jets or mansions. We put our money into habitats and research. What do you spend yours on? Joy. The question hangs in the air like a live wire. Joy's face turns crimson. How dare you question how I spend my money? You don't know anything about my life, about what I do with my resources. You're right, Robert says, calm or now dangerously calm. I don't, but I do know you fly to your vacation home regularly. I know you've argued against wind farms because they ruin your view. I know you've mocked young climate activists on this show. So forgive me for wondering whether you actually care. Or if you just like arguing. Sonny tries again. Robert, maybe we should know. Let him talk. Joy snaps. Let him tell us all how terrible I am. Let him explain how his generation has it all figured out and the rest of us are just stupid or selfish. Robert inhales slowly. I never said you were stupid, Joy. I said your attitude is part of the problem. When someone with your platform dismisses environmental science, when you mock young people who care about the future, you make it harder to solve anything. You have influence whether you admit it or not, and you're using it to spread apathy. Joy's voice cracks with incredulity. I care about plenty of things, Robert. I care about healthcare. I care about education. I care about human rights. Just because I don't prioritize your pet project doesn't mean I'm apathetic, Joy snaps. It's not a pet project, Robert fires back. He's gesturing now, hands animated, frustration finally spilling over. It's the foundation of everything else. You can't have healthcare without clean water. You can't have education without a stable climate. You can't have human rights when entire communities are being displaced by environmental disasters. Everything is connected, and the fact that you don't see that is terrifying. Because you're smart enough to understand it, which means you're choosing not to. Joy grabs her stack of note cards and throws them down on the table. Don't have to sit here and be insulted by someone who thinks spending time with koalas makes him morally superior. And I don't have to sit here and be condescended to by someone who thinks age automatically equals wisdom. Robert shoots back. Some of the most short-sighted, destructive decisions in human history were made by old people who thought they knew better. The audience gasps like they just watched someone slap a microphone to the floor. Whoopi raises her voice. All right, that's enough. We're going to commercial, but Joy's not hearing anything. Get him off my stage. I'm serious. Get him out. Robert lets out that bitter, disbelieving laugh again. Your stage. Joy, this isn't your stage. You're one host on a panel show. You don't own this. Security. Joy barks, looking off camera. Can we please have security? Alyssa finally cuts in, alarmed. Joy, come on. This is getting out of hand. It got out of hand when he started personally attacking me. Joy fires back. Robert turns to her fully, eyes sharp. Personally attacked you. You brought up my father. You dismissed my education. You called me I defended my work. There's a difference. Two security guards step onto the edge of the set. They hesitate, glancing between Joy and Robert, unsure who is actually being removed. Producers frantically tap their headsets. The audience is half standing, half filming. All chaos. Sonny puts a gentle hand on Joy's shoulder. Joy, maybe we should take a beat. Joy shrugs her off like she's swatting a fly. No, I'm done. I'm done with this interview. He can leave, or I can leave, but we're not continuing like this. Robert looks at Whoopi, voice low, but with a steadiness that hits harder than shouting. I came here to talk about conservation. In good faith. To share the work we're doing to save endangered species. Instead, I walked into an ambush of dismissive questions and personal attacks. If anyone should leave, it's the person who turned a conversation into a confrontation. Whoopi holds up both hands. Nobody's leaving. We are adults. We can disagree without whatever this has become. Can we, though? Robert asks, quieter now, but still burning. Because this happens every time someone from my generation tries to talk about climate or conservation. We're too young, too emotional, too alarmist. So at what point does our expertise matter? At what point do we get a seat at the table without being condescended to? Joy crosses her arms, chin raised. You have a seat at the table, Robert. You're on national television. You have millions of followers and resources people can only dream of. What you don't have is the right to tell people who've been working on these issues longer than you've been alive that they don't care enough. Then prove you care, Robert says, stepping slightly forward. Stop mocking climate activists. Stop dismissing scientific consensus. Stop prioritizing your personal comfort over the planet's future. If you actually care, act like it. Sarah finally speaks, her voice shaky. Maybe we can find some common ground here. You both care about important things, you just have different. No, Robert cuts in firmly. We don't have different priorities. We have one person who prioritizes evidence and action, and another who prioritizes contrarianism and ratings. This isn't a both sides issue. Climate science isn't up for debate. Conservation biology isn't a matter of opinion. These are facts. And I'm tired of pretending skepticism deserves equal airtime with reality. Joy uncrosses her arms and steps toward him. You want reality. Here's reality. Most people watching are worried about paying their bills, not crocodile populations. Most people can't afford electric cars. Most people are just trying to survive. And you standing here acting like they're part of the problem is elitist and offensive. Robert holds his ground. I never said ordinary people are the problem. The problem is systemic. Fossil fuel companies spent decades funding climate denial. Politicians take money from polluters. Media personalities platform that denial and make it seem reasonable. Ordinary people are doing the best they can inside a broken system. He doesn't blink, but we need to change the system. And that starts with people like you choosing to use your platform responsibly. Responsibly, Joy echoes, her voice low but sharp. You mean agreeing with you? I mean not spreading misinformation, Robert replies. I mean not giving credibility to arguments that have been disproven over and over again. I mean acknowledging that when 99% of climate scientists agree on something, maybe, just maybe, the 1% funded by oil companies isn't the side we should be amplifying. Whoopi tries again, her voice weary. Okay, I think we've heard both perspectives, and our viewers can make up their own minds about no Joy snaps. I want to know something, Robert. She steps toward him, chin lifted. If you think I'm such a terrible person with such dangerous views, why did you come on this show? You knew who I was. You knew what this show is. So why come here just to insult me? For the first time since the argument began, Robert hesitates. His shoulders rise as if he's inhaling an answer he doesn't want to give. I didn't come here to insult you. Joy, he says, finally. I came here hoping to have a real conversation. I thought that if I explained the work we're doing, why it matters, maybe it would resonate. Maybe it would spark something. I was optimistic, maybe naive, but I thought it was worth trying. He looks at her, eyes tired but earnest. And even now, even after all of this, I still think you can understand why this matters. I think you're choosing not to. And that's what frustrates me. Something flickers across Joy's face. Not agreement, but something closer to vulnerability. You think I'm choosing ignorance? She asks. No, Robert says softly. I think you're choosing comfort. I think facing the reality of this crisis means acknowledging things that might change your lifestyle. And that's uncomfortable. I get it. But comfort isn't more important than survival. The security guards linger awkwardly at the edge of the frame, stuck in a standoff no one has actually asked them to resolve. Producers gesture wildly from behind the cameras. Whoopi rubs her temples. Joy reaches for her coffee, takes a slow sip, recalibrating. "I'm 70 years old. Robert," she says finally, "I've lived a long life and fought battles you couldn't imagine. I've championed causes when they were unpopular. Don't stand here and tell me I've chosen comfort over survival. The difference between us isn't that you care more. It's that you think caring about the environment gives you some moral high ground over people who prioritize other issues." "I don't think I'm better than anyone," Robert answers, voice cracking. "I just think we're running out of time. And people with platforms should take that seriously. That's all I've been trying to say." Joy nods once, not in agreement, but in acknowledgement. "And I think young people have been convinced the world is ending," she says, "and it's making them miserable. Someone has to push back on that narrative." "That's all I've been trying to say." For a moment, the studio is silent. Not peaceful, just suspended, like the brief lull in the middle of a storm. To people who will never agree but have finally exhausted themselves to the same level. Then, Joy turns to the producers. "I'm taking a break. You can finish the show without me." She walks off stage, gripping her coffee mug like a gavel she's just slammed down. The security guards glance at Whoopi, who waves them off tiredly. "We're good. Thank you." Robert remains standing, awkward and deflated. Alyssa breaks the silence with a brittle smile. "Well, that was illuminating." Whoopi exhales. "You've definitely made this a memorable appearance." Robert rakes a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean for it to go that way. I just couldn't sit there and let those arguments go unchallenged," Clearly Sunny says gently. "For what it's worth, I think you made some valid points." "Valid points don't matter if they don't change minds," Robert murmurs. Whoopi stands and extends a hand. "Sometimes planting seeds is enough. People hear more than you think, even when they don't show it." He shakes her hand, but the fire he walked in with is gone, replaced by the heavy slump of someone carrying a burden no one else agreed to pick up. "I hope you're right," he says. The cameras catch him as he walks off the stage. Past the frantic producers already on their phones. Past the crew whispering into headsets. The audience doesn't know whether to clap or remain silent. A few clap half-heartedly, and that's how one of the most explosive interviews in daytime television history ended, not with victory, but with fatigue. Two people with opposing worldviews, both certain they're right, both leaving the stage unchanged. If you've made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below answering this question. Do you think Robert crossed the line, or was Joy out of pocket for how she handled that interview? Let me know your thoughts.